All right, today we're talking about why it's important to step outside of your business and serve in leadership positions in other organizations so that you can bring ideas and energy back to your company and back to yourself personally. My guest today is Joaquin Cordero. He's the global board chair of Entrepreneurs Organization, a wonderful organization I've been a member of for a number of years. I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show, and you know if you've listened before that every week we feature smart CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies. And if you check out the archives, we've got Netflix and Grubhub and Redfin, Gusto, Kinko's, Activation Blizzard, Lending Tree. Lots of great episodes for you to check out, so go check those out. And before we get into this interview, this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. And Rise 25, we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. How do we do that? We do that by helping you to run your podcast. We are the easy button for any company to run a podcast, launch and run a podcast. And we do strategy, accountability, and full execution. I absolutely love doing it. And I actually have a podcaster here today, Joaquin. Quinny is actually a podcaster as well. So we'll talk about his podcast as well. If you want to learn about what we do, go to rise25.com and you can learn all about it. And first, a shout out to Eduardo Montano, who I interviewed a while back about raising resilient kids in the age of AI, and Mark Stockley, also another past board chair of Entrepreneurs Organization, because both of them led me to Quinny here today, and I'm grateful to both of them. So Joaquin Quinny Cordero, you are based in Guatemala. You're a serial entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Lumen, which is a purpose-driven communications firm operating in Guatemala and a number of other countries in Latin America, and started in 2009. And started as a production house and evolved into a full-stack advertising, media, and brand agency serving clients like Volkswagen and Mitsubishi and others. And we're going to get into your whole story. You've been very involved in Entrepreneurs Organization and now are serving as the global board chair, which is really exciting. We were together in Hawaii earlier this year at the Global Leadership Conference, where you gave a great speech talking a bit about your passion for rock climbing and comparing that to your business journey. And so I'm really excited to hear about that. But first, let's start with one of your first business ventures, which was a VHS store. A VHS store. I want to hear about that because I just got back from Bend, Oregon, which is the home of the last Blockbuster in the world. So first of all, how did you get into doing a VHS store? And for the younger listeners, what is a VHS? You're going to have to explain that to those younger kids who don't know what that is.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much, Sean. I'm very honored to be here with you. It was just starting university. I was on my first semester when I started this business. It was called the Video Store. Some friends had already started a video store and they had a couple locations. And I wanted to start one near my home. So that's how it started. And we invested all this money in getting all the VHS. And it was like the next day, DVDs started happening. And we're like, oh, shoot. So it was a really good thing. It went on for like a couple of years. Then I closed it because plans changed and I went to study abroad to Mexico, to Monterrey. I chased that opportunity to be able to study there. My brother was studying there and I wasn't doing really good here in the university in Guatemala, to tell you the truth. They actually gave me 6 months vacation. If you were not able to get to a certain average, above 80%, they would tell you to take 6 months to go out and think what you want from life. And in those 6 months, I started a business, went back again at a different, started as a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer at the beginning, and then I went back to business administration. And after 6
as
months,
a recovering lawyer here, I can say you made a good decision.
Thank you, my friend. And after those 6 months, I decided to go to study to Monterrey, Mexico, and I closed the business, the video store, and I was able to sell some of the VHSs, but it was, reminding everyone to rewind. Like, what the hell is that nowadays?
Yeah.
You got most of your money from people who didn't rewind, paying penalties and whatnot.
Penalties, yeah.
But there's so much. I usually tell people that I'm not against child labor in a funny way because I started my business when I was in my teenage years. I did everything from selling toys, selling posters, selling so many different things. And it gave me each one a unique learning that I've applied in my journey.
What drove you to do that? Was it wanting to earn money of your own? Was it, you had entrepreneurs in the family. You had this uncle, which we'll talk about in a second. What motivated that?
I guess when life happens and you go back and you start thinking about what were the igniters, especially participating at this level in the entrepreneurs organization in the board. And I came across that the first time I heard the word entrepreneur was from my mother. And she was telling me about my grandfather, I have his name, Joaquin. He was a Cuban immigrant, got out of Cuba during Batista times before Castro. And how he owned his time, and he represented some brands, and he was able, to enjoy life more. And it stuck with me, and I'm the only entrepreneur in the family. My two brothers have very successful careers, and they're super smart. One in Amazon, the other in Hertz in the U.S. In the car rental company. He's been there for like 15 years, and I admire them so much. I kind of like started entrepreneurship when I was very young. One side on making money and being able to manage my expenses. On the other side, it was really easy for me to sell. I am extroverted. I like to talk to people, make relationships. So it was a natural thing that started happening to me.
So ended up you had these kind of series of different companies from a young age, but then when you end up graduating college, you have this uncle who owned a cable TV station and invited you to come work there. You end up working there for 7 years. Talk a little bit about what that did for you, spending
Yes.
7 years working under your uncle's tutelage and learning from him and learning the business.
Sure. This is Willie Kashmit. He is a mentor of mine and a great person. I admire him a lot. One of the things I admire most about him is how he's probably the best PR guy I know, relationship master, always happy, always uplifting everybody, great energy. And he was in the International Olympic Committee. So he was on the board of the Olympics. Only two Latinos at that time. One was a Mexican, and he born in Costa Rica but living in Guatemala for all his life. And when I graduated school, he was starting to do this. He had acquired this national company that it was a national TV. It was cable TV. It was not a network. And he knew that I had taken some classes on communications, and he said, I need someone to come help me out. Come on, you can be the person in charge of production. So I went there. I was the second employee. I got in there, to tell you the truth. When I got in there, I was like, what the hell am I doing here? Because there was nothing. There was just like Celia Cruz singing on the TV and very old episodes of many things. We were retransmitting some channels. But throughout the experience and after being there for 7 years, I learned a lot from it. After a couple of years, I became the CEO of the company, and he started working with the president of Guatemala, Oscar Berche. My uncle was the commissioner for tourism in Guatemala, and it was a smart move because he knew so many people from all the world. And he actually managed to bring to Guatemala the decision on the Olympics, Winter Olympics that happened in Sochi. So, seeing the Antonovs from Russia coming to Guatemala, seeing Austria committee delegation coming to Guatemala, and the Pyongyang as well. And at the end, Sochi won. But because of him, I met Prince of Monaco. I met Putin. I met so many international figures. If James Bond exists, he was in that gala evening night for sure. So it was a really good mentor for me. And one of the takeaways that I got from him was formality contracts. And I think one of the strengths that we've had in my company in the advertising agency is we do very smart contracts, but we don't do business without contracts. Everything is great until it's not, and to have something to go back at and say, this is what we agreed upon, it is tremendous.
I mean, as a former lawyer, I can definitely second that. I think a lot of times people go into a happy relationship, think, "Oh, everything's gonna be fine. It's never gonna go bad." But when it does go bad, if it does go bad, you definitely want a contract in place. And it sounds like that experience, one, you learned a lot, and so it gave you the confidence and the know-how to start your own company, but also you witnessed the value of your uncle participating in an organization that was not his company, networking, meeting people, bringing back ideas to the company, and maybe a foreshadowing of your involvement with EO. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that kind of gave you the idea to get involved in EO in the way that you have?
Definitely. I definitely see that parallel that you mentioned. I was always seeing him when I grew up, and he was a boxer. He started his career. You should probably have him in his podcast. I already asked him to be in mine, but he was like the Forrest Gump, and he started his career in being a referee of boxing. So he refereed for Evander Holyfield, for Foreman, so these big boxers.
Oh,
And I always looked up to him and saw him traveling all over the world, meeting these great figures in so many countries, world leaders. And I picked up on that. And I was always thinking like, it would be great to be able to be of service to others and to be able to have these great relationships with everyone, and seeing how people would approach him and invite him to participate in business deals and whatnot. And a funny thing is, when I was confirmed the position to be chair, he was the one who celebrated me most. He invited me and my dad and some friends to have dinner with him, and I was really grateful for him. But yeah, those are things that I picked up early in my childhood, and I see that parallel very well.
so after the cable company, you decide to start Lumen. What was that like? Was that difficult going back to your uncle who groomed you all these years and saying, "I want to go out and start my own thing"? Or I think it was around the time. I think he'd also sold the cable TV channel at the same time.
Yeah,
So
the goal was always to sell the channel. And we were focused on, making the most of it. We started transmitting from one cable company to over 400 cable companies in Guatemala. Guatemala has a very strong cable coverage in the country. Finally, we were able to sell it, and we sat down, and he gave me some list of opportunities of the other areas of the company that I could look up on. And I had started a couple of businesses. One was importing this Vinturi. I don't know if you've seen these wine decanters that use the Venturi effect. I saw them when I went to Jacksonville to visit another uncle who was the first lung transplant of Guatemala. That was probably like 15 or 20 years ago. And he was like, look at my decanter. And I tasted that wine, and it felt like, wow, this is so amazing. I've never tasted wine like this. So I started distributing that, and I sold it in Mexico, in Argentina, in Chile, in Central America. I rode that wave very well. A great learning is when it was already positioned, a big distributor came in and took it away from me, and they were like, "Thank you, but no longer thank you." So that was
uh,
a great learning.
the
Um,
importance of contracts again.
Again, yeah,
Yeah.
and I lost my train of thought.
So
Come back to
well,
it.
you were talking about how you got to starting Lumen after your uncle
Oh
sold
yeah,
the company. Yeah.
yeah. So he gave me some options, and I said, I think it's time for me to start my own business. I always had it. I remember when I graduated university in Monterrey, I had started climbing there, and I thought I want to be the owner of my business, so that I'm able to travel 2 or 3 weeks a year without having an issue to go climb and do what I'm passionate about. So I had that on the back of my mind all the time. My wife had started a sandwich store that grew up to 4 locations, La Delia, and I was supportive of her. By that time, I said thank you to my uncle, and I started a production company, audiovisual production company, which was Lumen Films. We had a great learning from that because it was really hard to work with the agencies. When you know how it is. We saw it like that when we were young, and we were like, when the product was good, it was the agency that did a good work. When it was bad, it was us that we didn't do a good work. And we thought we need to have a relationship direct with the marketing guys, because we're having this intermediary is, it's not the best option. So we started the advertising agency with the risk that most of our clients were advertising agencies. Today, I can say that was a smart decision, because now business happens throughout the advertising agency, and this one shares to the other areas, which is media, which is production, and all the rest. But I started, with a partner. We started a couple of people. It was a beautiful startup back then. And we grew up. We are now 25 souls, still not a huge business. We participate in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. And we do a lot of communication for Central America. We've had some clients. We have been for 16 years. It's almost my daughter's age. They say that kids bring bread under the arm. And I have clients who have been with us for 15 years, like Danone and other brands. With Volkswagen, we started working in 2018. So we love the fact that we have relationships that are long, and most of our employees, most are 9, 10-year-old employees. I have some who have been here for 14 or 15 years. And I love that because, there's such a cost in having to bring in new people and training them, get the hang of the business and the culture, instead of developing them to become better at what they're already doing.
And
it
also
was Mitsubishi Electric. Sorry about that.
Mitsubishi Electric,
the air conditioning. Yeah,
got it. And I heard an interview where you said that you have 6 or 7 employees that are also rock climbers. Do you hire for that, or did they get interested in rock climbing because the boss is interested in rock climbing? How did you end up with so many big portion of your employees are rock climbers also?
I love that, man. I guess the first one, it is my digital strategist. She is a Venezuelan who lives in Mexico. Is the only person who works from home in our company. And I met at the crag. So we were climbing in Amatitlan, which is our home crag where we climb. And I met her and I asked her for belay, and she started belaying me. And I asked her, what do you do? And she said that she was in social media and that she worked for one of the big ones, to BBDO. So I asked her if she would be interested in coming to work with us. And she was, and she's been here with us for a long time. That was the first one. And then the rest, I started taking them to climb to the gym. And then we started to go to the crag, and there's 4 of them who we started doing that with. And last year I took them to Monterrey, to my, it's my second home, Monterrey. I've come back every year after I studied there. There's one of the best places in the world to rock climb, huge routes, beautiful rock. And I took them there for 10 days and we climbed beautiful climbs with, they did some climbs that are over 900 feet tall. So 12-hour hard climbs, and they started like 3 years ago. They're already, doing intermediate hardish things for someone with not so much experience. But that has been a great bonding for us.
You're gonna have to bring them. You have to bring them to Yosemite here in California and take them to El Cap.
Oh, I love that. I tried El Cap once. I have to go back.
You did?
That's in my list. Yeah, I tried it in 2017. I only climbed 1/3 of it. I was not prepared. You know what they say, when you have a hard decision to flip a coin, and the time that the coin is in the air, you already know what you want it to fall, and that's your gut feeling telling you what to choose. And I was throwing that coin all night long, thinking I have to get down, I have to get down. Finally, I got down. Something that really moved me that day, one is I was not prepared to do that climb, so I'll be better prepared next time. Hopefully, after my service as chair, I'll be able to go back. The day before, I called my daughter. 2017, so that's 7 years ago. So she was probably 8 or 7. And I said, my love, tomorrow I start climbing. It's going to be some days. We're counting that it'll take us 5 days to go up. I just wanted to say, that I'm here, whatever you need. And she was kind of like jokingly, and she said, Daddy, do me a favor. Yeah. Please tell your friends that if you fall down to the ground, to pick all your pieces so I can put you together. That really hit me really hard. And I was thinking about it all the climb going up, and I was like, I'm not prepared for this. What am I doing here? In the end, I told my team, we were 4 guys. And I said, guys, we're going to be, one of them had already decided to go down, and I was the second one who decided to go down. And I said, guys, I'm going to be stopping you, take all the things that you need, go up, we're going to go down, and I'll come back another time. It'll still be standing there. That's the good things about those walls. And they finally did it. It's amazing. Just the way, imagine, we were thinking about spending 5 days there, which is a lot. It is that normal people take. The record is like 4 hours.
Yeah, it takes a few days to get up there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes a gallon of water per person. We were four. So 4 gallons of water per person per day. So it's 20 gallons of water that you take up.
Oh,
Imagine that
wow.
with
That's
these
crazy.
huge bags. That's
Jeez.
plus the portal ledges, the roads, the equipment, the food, everything.
You carry
And
all that stuff with you.
the only weight you take off is the water weight because you're peeing throughout
Right.
the rock. It smells like a
Right.
lion's den when you go climb there. But the number two, there is a poop tube that you take up and you bring it up so that that
uh,
weight still goes up. It's
oh,
very
jeez.
uncomfortable.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Well, while we're on the topic of rock climbing, you gave this speech at the Global Leadership Conference, Entrepreneurs Organization, earlier this year in Hawaii, where you talked about doing hard things. And you also talked about this experience that you had of being on the climbing one time, getting attacked by a swarm of bees, and being prepared for the crazy things that happen to you, and then using that as a metaphor for life and for business. Can you talk a little bit about that story that you told in that speech?
Yeah, of course. That was a life changer for me. It's one of those times that you think, oh my God, I almost died. This was a wonderful wall that we had eyed for a long time. Now it's called the bee wall. I don't know why, but we knew that there were bees there, and we decided to go there and to put a little fire so that the smoke would keep them down. It was a huge beehive, and we started opening the routes. So I was drilling the vibration through the rock started to make them nervous, and they came out and they said, we're not happy that you guys are here, you should leave. We continued at it, and they started stinging one of my friends, the one who was below me. I was 10 stories up, so probably like 30 meters up, and I
Uh,
saw him being attacked, and I thought, oh my God, what they say, if you see your neighbor's beard being cut, start watering yours.
mm,
And that bee started to come up after he was able to get off and roll down the mountain. And the bee started to come up through the rope. And I had like 5 bees in front of me, and I started feeling their stings. It felt
uh,
like cigarettes being put out on
uh,
your face. Long story short, I had to go down. So it was like, if you're going through hell, keep going, because I knew the beehive was down. But it got so intense at one point that for minutes I was just like doing this to my face and killing all the bees that I had, doing this in my hands and filling my
uh,
hands with bees and killing them
uh,
repeatedly while I tried to pendulum very little with the short rope that I had.
uh,
At one point, my friends didn't see me because there was a bowl of bees that they could see, and it was dark for me because I was, full of bees. And
uh,
then I thought nobody's coming to save you, right? Like I would look down and my friends were running away from me, but they couldn't do anything. There were no
mhm,
helicopters, cell signals. So I
right.
had to go down through the hard place. At the end, I had to jump from 4 stories, 12 meters, 36
Uh,
feet. And I broke my ankle, it broke my neck, the C4. I
uh,
fissured it. And at one point, I was trying already at ground floor. I was trying to take all my equipment off, and I was not able to take the harness off. And I thought, this is it. I'm gonna die. Like I'm ready. I want to see the end of the tunnel quickly because this is not comfortable. And in that moment, someone did come to save me. A friend who was 30 meters left, putting up another route. He came down, rappelled. He had a gas drill, a Ryobi gas drill. He threw water, the gasoline, and he lit it up. Luckily, he was a smoker and he had fire. I went into that fire like it was holy water, my friend.
he
And then
lit a
I got up
fire
and
because the smoke scared away the rest of the bees or something like that. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, because the beehive was right where I fell, like right
Oh,
below there.
uh,
And that's how we were able to get away from it. But it was, and funny thing, when I got to the hospital, I all the ride in the car was taking away all the little bee stings, which now I know it's not a good thing because there are pumps, and when you pinch them to take them out, you put all the venom in. So that's why they
mm,
use tweezers from
mm,
below, and it felt like my skin was burning, like it was
mm,
tremendous. I
mm,
had I had to come down from the rope, and I burned my two fingers to the bone from that
mm,
fall from the
mm,
friction.
mm,
Um, and in the hospital, the doctor said that he had put something like for an elephant because my throat was already closed. I was not being able to breathe. I don't know why it took so long. Probably that day I took an anti-allergenic because if not, I would have died. And when they passed me to the room, my now wife, then girlfriend, and three cousins who were also studying in Monterrey, they took like a couple hours taking all the beestings that I had not taken out and that the nurses didn't take out, and they counted over 400 beestings,
Oh,
mostly
jeez.
behind my ears. So they're
Really?
very organized bees. You know, you don't want to bother them, but they will go
Oh,
to all the black places: eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. I would have
oh,
them going to my nostrils.
oh,
I would have them when I was screaming. They stinged inside my throat,
oh,
and I would have them going to my ears as well. The
oh,
worst was the noise that they would make when they got stuck between my hair and the helmet. It was like a like the RPMs of them. It was. I
oh,
had post-traumatic stress disorder for like 6 months. I would wake up at night, like taking peace away from me. It
mm,
was it was a great experience. It was a very tremendous experience. And the funny thing is, a couple of years ago, I went back to Monterrey, and we went with some friends, and we were climbing this four-pitch route, five-pitch route. So we were 120 meters, 360 feet off the deck. These are the pitches, it's like rope length. So this was like four rope lengths. And when I arrived to the anchor, five bees came down, and they did this little movement in front of me that I immediately recognized. I had already seen it like 20
mm,
years ago.
mm,
And then they came down and started walking on my heart.
mm,
And I was like, four bees, and we were four guys, and they were only engaging me. And I
mm.
said, guys, these bees are not really happy that we're here. They have their home here upstairs, and they don't want us to continue. We should go down. Oh, come on. Bees are not going to stop us. Like my friends who already knew the story, right? And I'm like, hey, guys, I had already gone through this. We
Mm.
cannot jump from this height. Okay, we're gonna
Yeah.
have to go down. We went down. Nobody got stung. So I feel I'm a little of a bee whisperer now.
A bee whisperer. Oh, what a crazy experience, man. Well, let's. I'm mindful of the clock. We're kind of running out of time here. Let's talk about your involvement in EO. So, you've served in a bunch of different roles, president of your chapter, now on the global board of directors. Talk a little bit about what you get from that. Like, it's a substantial contribution of time. Thank you for that, by the way. You put a lot of energy. You have to travel. You have to go to these board meetings, all kinds of different stuff. Why do you do it?
That is a great question, my friend. And it's funny because when I heard about EO the first time, it was from a business partner, and he would talk about his experience. He wouldn't tell you what to do. So he would talk about what is your key takeaway after this meeting. I was like, wow, what book did you learn for that from, or what did you read? And he talked about this organization, and he told me, when your business goes over $1 million, I'm going to invite you to come over, because I had just started my business. I joked that he should have said 10 million so that I would be retired by now, but it's not the case. And I worked really hard to get over that million so that I could participate. So I started in 2012. And it was funny because since day one in January, they invited me to this breakfast, and they kind of like told me of all the opportunities that I could do. They spoke about the POL, they spoke about this EMP and MIT and whatnot. And I thought,
There's a
oh,
lot
that
of
sounds
lot of
amazing.
acronyms for different things. Yeah.
You're right. The
Yeah.
entrepreneurial master's program
Yeah.
from MIT is entrepreneurial masters that we do.
Yeah. Which
Path
I'm in
of
the middle
leadership.
of. I'm in the middle of that program as well. It's a great program at
It's a great
MIT.
program.
Yeah,
It's my
3 year
favorite.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad. Path of leadership is because this organization, one of the greatest things that it has is that we have a lot of member volunteers. It's a 20,000 member organization. You are a member volunteer. Thank you for your time as well, my friend, in
Hmm.
membership.
Hmm.
And we have over 2,000 member volunteers. And since day one, they told me the guy in membership in Guatemala had been membership chair for 7 years, and they didn't want to change him because he was really good. So when I got in, he said, "You're gonna be my person who's gonna be after me. I'm quitting this year." So I started co-chairing my year one. And as I got more involved, I learned so much from it. Like being in the board in Guatemala, I learned how to manage boards. I understood more about boards or why boards exist. Then I passed to the regional side, being in committees. So I got engaged so much. I learned so much from it, and I started to apply it in my company, in my business. So I say that I was really lucky because in 2012 I got in and I went to EMP in 2013, graduated 2015. Um, and a lot of what they tell you at EMP is to get out of the operational side of your business and to be able to become the visionary of your business. I
Yep.
joke that I took it to heart and I just never came back to my business. I don't know what they're going to do with me next year when I come back. But I
Yeah.
have been, luckily, all my years that I've been in EO, I've been at the service of the organization, and it fuels me. Going to all the events that we go to, learning from all the great teachers that we get access to, being able to have contact with people from all over the world. That's amazing. Understanding different cultures, making team with them to deliver results. That's been amazing. I get energized from serving others, and I feel that's what has kept me so engaged. But there's also a side that it serves for me, right? And it's the growth that I've had. I always say that I owe the culture of my company to EO because a lot of the culture that I applied here is from what I learned at EMP and from many others. And I would have never thought that I would be chair of the organization. I would probably said, I want to help on a regional side, understand more about the region. But it's a beauty about EO that it puts you in uncomfortable positions. It puts you to do things that you're not normally doing. It challenges you to new ways of leadership because these are leaders that you're not paying them, but you have to convince them of doing it for the greater good and whatnot. So, and all the trainings that we go through, I did Global Leadership Academy. If you haven't done an RLA, a Regional Leadership Academy, it's a great thing. I
Yeah.
did it in 2015 as well. I was drinking from the fountain, as they say, in 2015. And I did the Regional Leadership Academy in 2022. When I got into the board, they do a training for all the board directors that is in IMD, which is kind of like the Harvard of Switzerland, and on high performing boards. So they train us because, most of us have boards or have had participation on boards. Many entrepreneurs, they have businesses. We average $4 million a year in the organization, so not many have boards, not many have that experience. So we train them all, and that's been part of the learning, right? This year I went to a chair training to understand more the role of the chair. And some of the teachers, one was Paul Buca, who is chairman of Nestle, who leads a 200,000 people organization
Wow.
in how many countries, right? Another was the chairman of Lego, who is now a director of Starbucks, on the board of Starbucks. So hearing these guys sharing their experience, you sign an NDA when you go into that class. So, this is one of the great learnings that EO gives you an opportunity to participate in. And I've always seen throughout my experience, in all these leadership positions, I learned about the imposter syndrome. It's imposter syndrome. For those who don't know what it is when you get picked to a leadership position or to do something and you're thinking, oh, maybe they got it wrong and maybe they should have picked the other guy. And am I able to deliver? Am I able to bring value to this position where I am? And at one point, a friend and mentor from the organization, you may know him, Brian Brold, who was also chair, I think, around 2015, actually. He said, but he's always going to be there, the imposter syndrome. And he helped me figure out, it's something that's going to always be there. You have to deal with it and just move forward, right?
Yeah.
And that was helpful. I think the imposter syndrome was harder being president of my chapter than going into the board or being the regional chair for Latin America.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. We just had a new president come in and she was talking about how nervous she was going into that board meeting. And one of our past presidents, who's got a large company, $50 million company, I remember seeing him after one of our board meetings, and he was telling me that he was more nervous running that board meeting than he was running his company meetings. And I was like, why? I don't understand why. And he's like, because they're not going to do what I tell them to do. Everyone here they're running their own company. They're volunteering here. So it's kind of a different skill set that you have to learn. So I've heard
It
that
is
before.
completely.
Yeah.
And this organization, I love that saying from Warren Buffett. He says that business happens at the speed of trust.
Mm.
He said it when he bought Walmart, I think, not Walmart, I don't remember what company he had bought, and he was able to buy the stock quickly because he had trust in them. And I think EO raises trust globally, right? We have, you call someone in whatever chapter we have, and you ask for someone, and they'll pick up the phone and they'll be helpful to you. And I think that is amazing, because the effect you have that on the families, the effect you have on the employees. We employ over 5 million people worldwide throughout our 20,000 members.
Wow.
So I think that is something beautiful, in this age in time where trust is so relevant, and where there are so many things happening in a global scale that we would have thought that, we had passed by now. But there are still issues happening, right? And how can we help everybody have better businesses, contribute more socially, and all of that?
I couldn't agree more. And I actually think that trust will become even more important as we enter this era with AI, where we're not sure what's real and what's fake. If we look online and there's someone tweeting, or if there's some online personality and we don't know if it's a real person or a fake person, then we're going to go with the people that we know is real. We're going to know someone who we actually trust. So I actually think trust is going to become even more important in the years ahead. I'm mindful of the clock. We're almost out of time. So Quinny, I want to wrap things up. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate having you here today. Where can people go to learn more about you and Lumen and check out your podcast? I know you've done a number of interviews, mostly in Spanish, but you've also done interviews in English as well.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, the podcast is Lumen Podcast, and they can find it in Spotify or in YouTube. I am in LinkedIn, Joaquin Cordero, or Joaquin Rodrigo Cordero Crespo. You know how Latinos are, like old soap opera with names and whatnot. But also I have my Instagram. If you search Joaquin Cordero, the original name is time.line.traveler. And it actually comes from the Lifeline exercise we did the first day we were in EO. And in Facebook, I'm also as Joaquin Cordero. They can search there and ping me there, and I'll be more than happy to reply.
Excellent. Joaquin, thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.